Have you ever wondered how humans came to be here? Did God really create them? Many people struggle with these questions, constantly trying to find out how we, who now have the technology to reach the moon, began in the first place. Who was the first to discover money or religion? If you're one of those grappling with such questions, your search is about to end. This book tells the fascinating story of human evolution that has unfolded over the past 300,000 years. It starts with humans hunting in forests and takes us on a journey through the future of humankind. Hello friends, welcome to Worldwide Books. Today, we'll explore Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and click the bell icon to stay updated. Let's begin. When we look around, it's clear that humans dominate the Earth. We have even ventured into space and are considering building homes there. But the question remains, how did we achieve all this? Modern humans are called Homo sapiens. However, humans have been on this planet for 2.5 million years. They evolved from an ancient ape species known as Australopithecus. From this species came the first humans, Homo rudolfensis and Homo erectus, who lived in East Africa. Eventually, they migrated to other regions due to changing environments. Homo sapiens appeared around 300,000 years ago. Like other human species, they walked on two legs and lived in groups. They had the capacity for complex thought, and the discovery of fire had already been made by the Neanderthals. So why did Homo sapiens survive while others didn't? There are two theories to explain this: the interbreeding theory and the replacement theory. The interbreeding theory suggests that Homo sapiens mated with other species like the Neanderthals, creating a merged species. We have evidence for this. 1% to 4% of European DNA comes from Neanderthals. The replacement theory argues that Homo sapiens were more intelligent and drove other species to extinction by outcompeting them for resources or even hunting them. This theory also has merit, as Homo sapiens would have wiped out or consumed other species. Both theories hold weight. It's believed that Homo sapiens both interbred with and eliminated other human species. So, how did Homo sapiens outlast the others? The answer lies in the cognitive revolution. Around 70,000 years ago, changes in the Homo sapiens brain allowed them to think more critically. They developed the ability to communicate and form larger groups. They could now collaborate on hunts and make more effective tools, allowing them to dominate over other species. Because of these advantages, Homo sapiens always had access to food. They could track and hunt animals more efficiently, while other species could not. When environments became inhospitable, they could migrate and adapt to new regions with ease. For example, when they moved towards America, they had to pass through the cold Arctic region. They hunted large animals, using their skins to make clothing and keep warm. This allowed them to survive and thrive in such harsh conditions. Afterward, they moved to Europe, Asia, and Australia, hunting the local animals. However, their migration caused many species to go extinct. For example, 50,000 years ago, Australia's ground sloths were 20 feet tall, but a few thousand years after humans arrived, these massive creatures disappeared. The use of language proved to be the most beneficial tool for Homo sapiens. It gave them the ability to work together in large groups, which propelled them far beyond other species. For example, once they began communicating, they started sharing hunting techniques with one another. In this way, they exchanged knowledge, and many minds came together. Additionally, they could teach their children, giving them the knowledge of a lifetime in just a few years, allowing the next generation to build on the experiences of the previous one. If one person discovered where food was stored, they could tell the rest of the group. Similarly, if someone learned where a dangerous animal was hiding, they could share that information and save lives. This made them much safer as a species. Moreover, they could form large groups and maintain good relationships, working together because they could communicate and understand each other well. They created customs, rituals, and even gods. People who believed in these practices became part of the same group, strengthening their unity. In this way, these shared beliefs helped keep them alive, as they bound them together. Many animals live in groups, like bees, but they can't adapt to changing environments or take advantage of opportunities. Monkeys also live together, but since they can't communicate as effectively, they don't form large groups. This is why they lag behind Homo sapiens. Only Homo sapiens have the ability to organize themselves into groups as large as villages, cities, states, or even nations, and the benefits of this can still be seen today. For a long time, Homo sapiens survived by hunting, but once they learned how to farm, they became farmers and reduced hunting. They also began domesticating animals. However, it's difficult to understand why they did this. Hunting had many advantages. Farming was hard work. A farmer had to spend the entire day in the fields, and crops took months to grow. On the other hand, hunting only took a few hours. By hunting, they could eat various animals, giving them a wide range of food options. But by farming, they could only grow a limited number of crops. Additionally, they had difficulty digesting crops like wheat, which also weren't as nutritious. In contrast, fish, fruits, and animals provided plenty of protein. The question arises, if hunting had so many benefits, why did Homo sapiens abandon it in favor of farming? There are two possible answers. First, the idea of farming gradually settled into the minds of humans, taking root deeper with each generation. By the time people realized the drawbacks of farming and the benefits of hunting, they had already become accustomed to it. Second, farming had one significant advantage. A farmer could grow enough food on a small piece of land to feed themselves throughout the year. This meant they no longer had to search for food year-round. As food became more plentiful, the population began to grow rapidly. This created a new problem: how to feed the increasing number of people. With the population rising fast, people realized they needed to find a way to deal with it. As a result, Homo sapiens developed trade and began exchanging goods. In earlier times, if someone needed food, they would ask someone in their group, and if needed later, they would ask again. Once farming allowed them to produce surplus grain, they no longer needed to hunt or ask for food. Some people began working in other trades, such as making weapons or weaving clothes. Those who weren't farming would trade their goods with farmers for food. As this practice expanded, the barter system emerged. The barter system meant exchanging goods directly. For example, if you needed grain and had weapons, and someone else needed weapons but had plenty of grain, you could trade your weapons for their grain. However, this system eventually developed some shortcomings. The biggest issue was that you had to find someone who wanted exactly what you were offering and had what you needed in return. People struggled to find the perfect match for their trades. Moreover, if someone promised to trade something later in exchange for grain today, there was no guarantee they'd keep their word. This led to the invention of money, which we still use today. Around 3000 BCE, Homo sapiens learned to write and invented money. The first to do this were the Sumerians and the Mesopotamians. When they realized they couldn't remember everything about their growing trade practices, they sought a way to keep track of the information. They began using simple symbols to record these transactions, often writing on clay or walls. They also invented money, allowing them to buy anything they needed. If someone wanted clothes, they would give money to a weaver in exchange for the clothes, and the weaver would use that money to buy grain from a farmer. If someone promised to pay later, their name was recorded, and when the due date approached, they would settle the debt. As trade grew, people realized they couldn't operate under different rules. They needed specific guidelines to avoid daily disputes and resolve conflicts. This led to the formation of governments. Rules were created, and those rules were enforced. To ensure that people followed these rules and resolve conflicts, a leader or king was chosen. The first reason is that the mindset of farming gradually embedded itself into the human brain over time, and with each passing generation, it became more ingrained. By the time people realized the drawbacks of farming and the benefits of hunting, they had already become used to farming. The second reason is that farming had a significant advantage. On a small piece of land, a farmer could grow enough food to feed themselves for an entire year. This meant they didn't need to search for food year-round. As food became plentiful, the population began to grow rapidly. This led to another problem: how to provide enough food for the growing population. With the population increasing, people realized that they needed a solution. Homo sapiens started trading and exchanging goods. In earlier times, if someone was short on food, they would ask someone in their group, and if they ever needed something later, they would do the same. Once farming allowed them to produce surplus grain, they no longer needed to hunt or ask for food. Some people then began doing other jobs, like making tools or weaving clothes. Those who didn't farm would trade their goods with farmers for grain. As this practice expanded, the barter system was born. The barter system meant exchanging goods directly. For instance, if you needed grain and had weapons, and another person needed weapons but had grain, you could trade your weapons for their grain. However, over time, this system developed many flaws. The biggest challenge was finding someone who wanted what you were offering and also had what you needed. People struggled to find the perfect match for their trades. If someone promised to give you a knife later in exchange for grain today, how could you be sure they would keep their word? This led to the creation of money, which we still use today. Around 3000 BCE, Homo sapiens learned how to write and created money. The first to do this were the Sumerians and Mesopotamians. When they realized they couldn't remember everything about their growing trade, they sought a way to record the information. They began using simple symbols to keep track of these transactions, often writing on clay tablets or walls. They also invented money, which allowed them to buy anything they needed. If they wanted clothes, they would give money to a weaver in exchange for clothes, and the weaver would use that money to buy grain from a farmer. If someone promised to pay later, their name was recorded, and when the time came, they would settle the debt. As trade expanded, people realized they couldn't operate under different rules. They needed specific regulations to avoid daily disputes and resolve conflicts. This is how governments started forming. Rules were established, and those rules were enforced. A leader or king was chosen to ensure that people followed the rules and to settle disputes. Rules were established and enforced throughout the region. To ensure that people followed these rules, a leader or king was appointed to resolve disputes among the people. In 1776 BCE, a man named Hammurabi created a set of laws in the city of Babylon, which became known as the Code of Hammurabi. These laws were enforced across Babylon. They covered everything from what should and shouldn't be done to rules about borders and trade. But the question arises, why would people follow these rules? Religion was introduced to answer this. When people believed that a king had been sent by the gods to rule and guide them, they would follow his commands more easily. Hammurabi declared that he was chosen by the gods to rule, and thus the people of Mesopotamia began to follow his laws. As empires expanded, the power of religion also grew. People feared the gods and would obey the kings in their name. It may sound strange today, but back then, this strange belief system helped maintain peace and order in society. People started living harmoniously and working together more efficiently. Earlier, Homo sapiens lacked self-confidence. They believed that nothing was in their control and that everything happened according to the will of the gods. Since they didn't believe they had any control over their lives, they didn't make efforts to change things. They would simply wait for things to happen. However, in the 16th and 17th centuries, things began to change. With the help of science, people started making various discoveries and showed that not everything was in the hands of the gods. From here, humans began to realize that they could take action and change their fate. This marked the beginning of technological advancements. For example, take child mortality rates. Many children used to die before reaching their first birthday. But as new medicines were discovered, the child mortality rate improved significantly. Eventually, only 1 out of every 1,000 children died before turning 1 year old. Gradually, people began adopting different ways to improve their lives. Many governments encouraged their people to explore the world, and they were given significant amounts of money to do so. A great example of this is Christopher Columbus. People used to believe that the world was flat, but some were curious to explore beyond the seas. In such times, Columbus was funded by the King of Castile to find out what lay across the ocean. When Columbus discovered America, it brought great benefits and wealth to them, improving their economy. Similarly, the British government sent James Cook to explore the southern Pacific Ocean to find out what lay beyond. This led to the discovery of Australia and New Zealand. These discoveries also brought great economic benefits. When humans started realizing that they could control many aspects of their lives and could understand the world through science, their reliance on God began to diminish. This was largely due to the Europeans, who were the first to conquer most of the world and spread their civilization everywhere. Even today, we live according to the civilization they spread. Europeans began implementing their laws and government systems across the world. One of their biggest contributions was capitalism, the understanding and use of the power of money. They were the first to try to make life easier with money, and today, the entire world seems to be chasing wealth. Before this, people believed that they would go to heaven if they did good deeds. They thought they were sent here to pass some kind of test, and whoever accumulated the most good deeds would pass. But over time, people started using money to bring a version of heaven to earth. Various comforts made life easier for them, and they began to do less work. Science has disproved many religious beliefs. Now, people believe that the earth was created according to the Big Bang Theory and that life evolved based on Darwin's theory of evolution. As belief in heaven declines, people are chasing wealth to make their lives more comfortable on earth. This is how capitalism has spread, starting with the Europeans. Humans have been fighting each other ever since they learned to farm. Up until the Second World War, wars were almost constant and countries kept being wiped off the map. Powerful nations would erase weaker ones. But since 1945, we haven't seen a similar event. How did this happen? The simple answer is globalization. In today's world, every country depends on another for something. Companies from one country trade with those from another, benefiting both. That's why world leaders are trying to maintain peace so that their nations can continue functioning smoothly. Today, if one country faces hardship, it affects many others. That's why countries are more willing to help each other, leading to a significant decrease in wars. The 20th and 21st centuries have been the most peaceful centuries so far. However, some believe that globalization is leading to the decline of many civilizations because different cultures are now merging. People may live in the same place, but their beliefs differ greatly. Despite these concerns, the world is much more peaceful today. When humans first learned to farm, about 30% of people used to be victims of some form of violence. But today, that number has dropped to just 1%. This has been possible because we have created various laws, and people are following them. Moreover, it's more important than ever to maintain peace because if a war breaks out today, it could mean the end of the world. Now, let's focus on the most important question. Despite all the progress we've made, from hunting animals in the wild and avoiding dangerous creatures to ordering food from our phones and peacefully sleeping in our beds, has all this advancement had any effect on our happiness? Are we happier than we used to be? The answer might be no. According to psychologists, no matter how many changes occur in our lives, after some time, our level of happiness tends to return to its previous state. In an average person's life, there hasn't been much improvement in terms of happiness. For example, if a family member dies, you might feel the pain of their absence for months, thinking that the sorrow will last forever. But eventually, your happiness level will return to where it was before. Similarly, if you get married, everything may seem great for a while, but after some time, you'll go back to your normal state of happiness. This suggests that despite all our progress, we aren't necessarily happier than we used to be. However, when we look at society as a whole, some groups of people have become somewhat happier than before. For instance, white people, who have historically accumulated wealth and moved ahead, are living in greater comfort today. But black people or women, who have been oppressed throughout history, are still lagging behind in comparison. The good news is that today, many people are getting the opportunity to benefit from the same advantages as everyone else. The situation is improving. We've seen how far we've come, but what's next? How will our civilization continue to advance? The answer may already be in our hands. Today, we're developing machines that can work in conjunction with our bodies. For example, you've probably heard of artificial hearts. If a person's heart fails, it can be replaced with a machine that functions just like a real heart. Additionally, we're creating limbs that can be controlled by thought. For example, Jesse Sullivan, an electrician, lost both of his arms in an accident. He was then fitted with prosthetic arms that he can control with his mind. This type of technology is known as bionic technology. Humans are now integrating machines into their bodies. We are also searching for a cure for death. By making changes to our genes, we are eliminating the factors that cause aging. This is known as anti-aging technology. We've already used this technology on C. elegans worms and have doubled their lifespan. We're also close to achieving success with mice. However, we haven't been able to test this on humans yet. This is because governments do not allow experiments on humans, considering it unethical. This is a major, yet justified, barrier. But this obstacle won't last forever. With these two technologies, we may be able to make ourselves immortal. When the opportunity arises, we will likely take it. Perhaps, in the future, we will become half human and half machine. We got a glimpse of this kind of society in the Hollywood movie The Ghost in the Shell. Homo sapiens have been the most intelligent creatures on Earth for the past 300,000 years. Their ability to live in groups and communicate effectively has proven to be immensely beneficial. This skill has allowed them to inhabit larger groups, and over time, they began to engage in trade and utilize technology. In the future, humans may perhaps merge with robots to achieve immortality. In conclusion, Sapiens takes us through the incredible journey of humanity, from our early ancestors to the complexities of modern society. As we face new challenges in a rapidly changing world, it's essential to reflect on what it means to be human and how we can shape our future. If you found this summary insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. Let's keep exploring the fascinating stories of our past together.